As a child, I felt a lot of rejection in my life. My parents divorced when I was 2, and I saw my biological father up until I was 7, but it caused a lot of rejection in my life. And even though my mother remarried a wonderful man who I still call my father to this day, I felt that not having my biological father fight for me, that there was something wrong with me, and that I wasn't good enough or worth enough for him to fight for. And growing up, I carried that weight on my shoulders, and I didn't know how to allow the Lord to heal those wounds. I was blessed to grow up in a Christian home. However, I didn't learn how to have a personal relationship with Christ. I just went through the motions of going to church, and I thought that that was what I was supposed to do. When I was 15 years old, I started searching for other things to fill the void that I felt from my biological father not fighting for me. I searched through men, and I searched through just covering up those wounds. When I turned 17, I became addicted to prescription painkillers, and that is when I knew that my life had taken a turn for the worse. I ended up becoming a manipulator. I lied, I cheated. When I felt my worst is when I stole from my parents. I stole from my parents, and that was when I knew that there was something wrong. The moment that I knew that my life was really out of control was when I would go to a church service, and I would just be thinking, when is this going to end so that I can take my next pill? By the time I was 23, when the prescription painkillers didn't work anymore, I got introduced to meth, and that covered all my emotions, and all I felt was joy and happiness. I knew that what I was doing was wrong, and I felt lonely, I felt lost, and I felt out of control. I didn't know who I was when I looked in the mirror, and that caused me to end up living in a drug house. At that point, I had lost my family, I lost my friends, I lost my job, all in 1 year. I ended up weighing about 110 pounds, not knowing what to do and who to turn to, and I was in a room. I lived at this drug house, and I was in a room for 7 days, and those 7 days I had no food, I didn't eat, and I was staying up because of the drugs. And I remember waking up in the morning, and I was looking around for things to kill myself with because I had lost my hope. I didn't know who I was. And when I was looking around, I was thinking about who I was and who I once was and what I had lost in my life. And one of the most important things that I lost was my hope, and I didn't have any hope. I didn't know how to find it. And so at that point, I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I need your help. And I had remembered in Sunday school that they taught me that when you don't know what to do and you're at the end of your rope, just cry out to God, and that's what I did. I said, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I said, I don't know who I am, and I don't know who I am in you. And at that moment, I felt the weight of rejection, the weight of who I once was be lifted off of me. And at that moment, the Lord gave me a word, and He said that there's a battle coming. Which side are you going to fight for? Are you going to fight for me, or are you going to fight for the enemy? And at that moment, I knew that the Lord had given me, not only had He heard my cry, but He had given me that choice to really live my life for Him. And at that moment, I lifted my hands and I said, Lord, I'm yours. I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And I know the truth, and I know your word, but I don't understand it, and I don't know how you can forgive me for what I had become. And through lots of prayer and family and friends, and I was able to enter into a Christian year-long recovery home called the Walter Hoving Home. And there is where I learned how to become a real follower of Christ. I read my Bible and I learned who I was through the Lord's eyes and not through the lies that I had been telling myself for years and believing about myself. After completing the program, that is where I learned that who I was in Christ, and I read the Word and I allowed it to meditate in me, and I gained the knowledge of who I was in Christ and what Christ thought of me, and not who I believed the lies of the enemy to be. I gained self-worth. I learned the truth about what I was reading and the issues that I covered up. I was able to heal from them because of what the Lord's Word said, and not because of the thoughts that were going through my head. I know that the Lord is who I find my self-worth through. And I don't feel rejected anymore because I know that the Lord never rejected me, and that I am who I am because He died on the cross for me, and I am a new creation, and I can do anything through Him. I have turned my life around because of the grace that He's shown me, and that is who I am today. I am no longer the rejected person that I used to think that I was. Through the work that the Lord did in my life, I was able to also restore the relationships with my family, which was the most important thing to me that I had lost. And through the power that He showed me through His Word and His faithfulness, I was able to restore those relationships. Do I still feel rejected and alone sometimes? And do I still hear those negative thoughts once in a while? Of course I do. But knowing the Lord's Word and knowing the power that lies behind those words, I can find the truth of who I am. And I no longer have to focus on those negative thoughts and those negative emotions of you're not worth anything, because I know the power of the Word, and that says that I am a new creation through Christ. I am who God says I am, and I can do what God says I can do.